Hello everybody, I'm the Cinematologist, diagnosing cinema one movie at a time. Thank you for tuning in to another edition to this year's Oktoberfest series and another edition to Diagnosis Cinema. And today we have Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Well, you may have noticed Vincent hasn't been around in the background lately, and that's because with this slate of movies that I've been looking at, he kind of got frightened off. So why don't we take a look into this movie? Okay, so when considering Rob Zombie's Halloween, it's no secret that it was a major disappointment to fans like me, who love the original film so much. It lacked all of the proper subtleties and mystique that keeps the original alive in many ways. Rob Zombie thought that replacing those subtleties with outright vulgarity and crudeness would serve as a proper substitute, but that strategy clearly did not work out. After the movie's release, Rob Zombie commented that he was most likely not going to make a sequel after the experience of directing the first film. He said he was proud of his work and for what it was, but a second film didn't seem likely. It didn't take long for that to change, however, because the sequel to Halloween came out 2 short years after the first attempt at a remake. Clearly, Rob Zombie is a man who stands by his convictions. So the movie was set to be released in August once again, and the trailers hit, and like the buffoon I was at the time, I thought the sequel actually looked somewhat more promising than the original. I felt that Rob Zombie was going to be able to go in his own direction and take Halloween into unfamiliar territory and bring a fresh story on take 2. In hindsight, I can say with full positivity that I have never been as wrong about anything in my life as I was then. After what was an absolutely monumental disappointment in Rob Zombie's original Halloween remake, Halloween 2 does the impossible in upping the ante of suck to a profound standard. I'm talking next level here. I'm talking professional grade crap. The Super Bowl of suckage. The Hall of Fame of horrible. The Grand Poobah of poo-poo. This is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So before we get to the action, the film opens up with this weird prelude involving the definition of a white horse. I'm sure that this theme is going to be completely well articulated and illustrated throughout the movie, so let's see how it works out. The film picks up directly after the first one left off because this sequel is so original and in a different direction, it applies the same setup as the sequel to the original film. I'm getting chills down my spine already. So Laurie is saved and taken to the hospital, Loomis appears to be alive in some form, and Michael Myers is supposedly dead at the scene of the crime, being carted off by a couple of charming individuals. We're having a nice peaceful drive across what looks to be a one-lane highway, and it looks like it's going to be a long ride, so why don't we get in on what these two upstanding citizens are talking about.
I heard a story about a couple of meat wagon boys fucking corpses over in Essex. I ain't never had the urge till tonight.
Seriously, what the hell is wrong with people in Rob Zombie's movies? I know that he has to somewhat insert himself into the movie in some sense, but why does he have to put necrophiliac hillbillies into this movie? Why?
Whoa, hey, whoa, come on, Brackett even thinks he hears you joking about that and then you're out of here on your ass.
Oh, well, at least somebody has some common sense in this movie. I'm glad we can finally move forward in this conversation.
Hey, what's the difference between jam and jelly?
I don't know. What?
You can't jelly your cock up with that girl's ass. You're like, cow! What? Cow!
What the hell just happened?
Cow! What? Cow!
Okay, so other than the fact that this is the most ridiculous movie plot device in cinematic history, can we take a moment to please admire the absolute insanity that just unfolded on screen?
Cow! What? Cow!
How in the hell could I possibly top this? The review should be over. Oh, okay. This is another one of those moments that Rob Zombie probably made about $10,000 to $20,000 to write on paper. This is a marvel in incredibly lazy writing. He couldn't think of a decent way to make his story work, so he had to insert a fucking cow that was apparently rigged with explosives? Listen, I'm no expert in physics or anything, but what a dramatic collision. I think this cow is what they must have dropped on Hiroshima. Hell, if you're gonna do this scene, it might as well look like this.
You're like, cow! What? Cow!
Lo and behold, the big lug is still alive. He saws off the head of the disgusting hillbilly because surviving the infamous cow blast of 2009 is already cheating death too much. Suddenly, Michael is distracted and stands idle on the road as he's mystified by the pretentious symbol that tries to convince us the movie is better than it really is. We then go over to the hospital to see Laurie and Annie recovering from the horrible events of the night before. Similar to the original sequel, this hospital appears to be vacant and sterile, but is also apparently only inhabited with overqualified actresses. Laura's attempting to make her way back to her room when all of a sudden, an Oscar-winning actress puts forth the most embarrassing performance in her career. Seriously, where the hell was the direction on this? We then see the steroid redneck step out into the picture as he's already reached the hospital, even though the previous juxtaposition of scenes doesn't allow this to make any sense whatsoever. And of course with Rob Zombie completely aware of the subtlety that made the first few original films so cherished, he somehow once again films one of the most over-the-top kills in cinematic history. What in the actual fuck? I wish I could have been on set for when this was being directed. Okay, great, now just keep stabbing. Keep on going. That's good. Stab away, Michael. Just 473 more stabs to get for this take, and then we'll do a couple more takes just to be safe. Remember, people are scared of stabbing. Hey, Rob, do you think we can take a break? We've been filming this for almost 3 hours. Oh, pooh, the camera's been on standby mode this whole time. Gonna have to take it from the top, everybody. Son of a bitch! So Laurie runs away from that dismal attempt at horror and accidentally falls into a pit of crew members that probably couldn't stand being on the set of this movie anymore. It's okay though, because she crosses paths with Wilford Brimley, who apparently needed a job after running out of Liberty Mutual royalties. I knew the diabetes would get me one day. So after Michael kills Wilford Brimley, it appears he finally has cornered Laurie until, you guessed it, it was all a dream. Seriously? What a waste of 15 minutes. Listen, I understand that Rob Zombie probably wanted to have some trace of similarity back to the original sequel, but he doesn't have to jerk us off like this for 15 minutes as a diversion. Listen, Rob, no sense of story McGee Zombie, you already tried to completely copy scenes from the original in your first attempt, and it didn't work out, so don't think we're gonna love this movie, especially after such a horrible waste of time on a stupid dream sequence. Yeah, so Laurie wakes up from a nightmare as it's 2 years after the events of the first film, with Laurie still traumatized. She's living with Annie and her father, the sheriff, and it appears that she's suffered from a real breakdown, which is at least one of the few things this movie sort of gets right in illustrating that breakdown. Danielle Harris returns as Annie because that's what money will do, and she's one of the few reasons people actually see these movies. So Laurie goes to her therapy session in which they have to explain everything Rob Zombie is unable to convey through a terrible script.
He never found his body.
So?
So it's very hard for you to get closure on this. I mean, he's objectively dead, but he's living in your mind and he's living in your heart and your emotions.
The king of subtlety strikes again, with an ink blot painting on the wall that is so subtle in what it is that your head will explode from how terribly conspicuous it actually is. Then we go over to see how Dr. Loomis is doing after having his face caved in like Play-Doh.
Look at this. Are we analyzing these?
Look, it's the wrong photograph. I mean, this is old Loomis. This is new.
Old Loomis increases sales by 25%,
Look,
okay? So...
Well, I'm not going in there until you go get me a cup of PG Tips with a splash of milk, and I want it sizzling hot.
Ugh, that's right, Dr. Loomis is a Class A douche nozzle, now trying to profit from the events in the first film, which he wrote a book about. A really questionable choice by Rob Zombie. I get that he was trying to put a twist on the character, but it just comes completely out of nowhere and downright desecrates the character of Dr. Loomis. I wonder what the ghost of Donald Pleasance would think of this.
Look at
Are we
this.
analyzing these?
Look, it's the wrong photograph. I mean, this is... In the meantime, we get to meet Laurie's new group of friends. Luckily in the sequel, Rob Zombie made sure to implement better characters with even more charming dialogue.
What up, Dick Lickers? Would you please convince Miss Tuculio for Schoolio that our costume idea is totally rad.
Dude, suck it up, ho. We got a fucking theme going on. Don't screw it up.
Okay, this dialogue is too cringy for me. We need a transition. So, Loomis has a seminar about his book, which really just seems like a turd-polishing opportunity for Rob Zombie to explain how good his first attempt at Halloween was.
In the arts of life, man invents nothing. But in the arts of death, he outdoes nature herself and produces, by chemistry and machinery, all the slaughter of plague, pestilence, famine, and Michael Myers.
Oh, he's so deep. I can't believe we missed it the first time around. At least we have this sequel that's going to be so articulate, and it's going to prove us all wrong and show us how great the first film... Oh, never mind. Loomis snaps when people ask him if he thinks Michael is still alive and if he'll kill again, and this features more classic, silver-quilled dialogue by Rob Zombie himself.
And sparkling clear, Michael Myers is fucking dead. Now, do you brain-dead gossip mongers want me to spell that out for you? D-E-A-D!
So we have a group of more hillbillies driving around at night because Rob Zombie realized he hasn't killed many people in the last 20 minutes, so let's take a break from developing any kind of story in order to kill the crooked cop from Batman Begins. But that's not the most riveting part of the scene. Finally, we get to see Michael eat a dog. Finally, we get to see him eat Fido, because in the movies before, we really wanted to look into the mystique of how he physically ate canines. Oh, thank goodness Rob Zombie felt the need to put that into this movie. Thank goodness. Or, not really. He tries to use this part of the movie to illustrate some sort of symbiotic bond between Michael and Laurie, but it just serves as more Rob Zombie necrophilia.
Anybody hungry?
Starving like Marvin.
Starving like Marvin. Has anybody at this table ever wondered who Marvin is? I mean, the original Marvin who was starving Marvin.
You know, you've really got to give credit where it's due and say Rob Zombie puts in some of the most thought-provoking and substantial conversation into his movies. Just amazing. This is right on par with the Royale with Cheese exchange from Pulp Fiction. This is right on par with that. Or we could kind of just call it what it is.
I smell bullshit.
Thank you. So then we cut to Michael in a barn, and the stupid scene is cloaked in a white filter and stupid costumes that looks like a rejected Smashing Pumpkins music video. It's not worth explaining. Meanwhile, Laurie's having some psychopathic nightmares about murdering her friends, which are beautifully put together. Between a lot of these scenes, we see Michael aimlessly hiking through the woods in his homeless juggalo costume. Truly a great look for an iconic horror villain. But again, we go off on another diversion because people need to die in horror movies, and Michael visits a strip joint. I'm not sure why, but the film practically begs me to not think for 2 hours.
Look, man, don't give me no reason.
Hey man, this kind of mustache comes once in a generation. Don't make me use it on you. So Michael proceeds to turn that man's face into a Dance Dance Revolution pad and makes his way toward the entrance.
Oh, God! What are you doing?
I mean, I would probably make a joke about how ridiculous this scene is, but by now you kind of grow numb to it. So if anything normal happens, let me know. So we see more masturbatory aid for Rob Zombie and then move on over to the police station where Sheriff Brackett seems to have uncovered a huge discovery. But we'll go over to Loomis, who's having another book signing, and we need to see Michael with the stupid dead mom next to them for 5 seconds. Things go awry, however, when someone approaches Loomis that might not have completely enjoyed his book.
You killer.
No, I didn't kill anyone.
You killer!
Sir, all right, everyone, just calm down. It's all right.
You butchered my baby. You son of a bitch! Why did I kill you, Loomis?
Well, I guess he really didn't like the book. You see, this is what the grammar police do when you don't properly punctuate your sentences. But seriously, how would that even make any sense to blame it on Loomis? It's not like anything he did in the first movie was a misstep or action of bad judgment. Besides being in the movie, this is just a scene to enhance the negative light in which Loomis needs to be portrayed for this movie to redeem him later. So I guess it's revealed in Loomis's book that Laurie is actually Angel Myers, the sister of Michael Myers. Everybody seems to be stunned by this revelation because Loomis apparently revealed it so irresponsibly, and that Sheriff Brackett covered it up. Boo fucking who.
We then somehow make a trip over to a talk show featuring Chris Hardwick and Weird Al Yankovic.
I kid you not, this is part of the movie.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Why do we have this scene? Why do we need this scene? I need a transition.
While Michael is too busy filming material only useful for the trailer, we go back to Laurie and her friends, as Laurie feels tempted to go out and be rebellious and lash out.
I want to fucking get drunk. I don't fucking care anymore. I want to fucking party!
Sorry, fellas.
So Laurie and her friends head to a sleazy Halloween party dressed in various costumes. It's not long before they split up, and the first one to get taken out is Count Slutula. Meanwhile, Annie is taking refuge at her house while the cops stand guard. Okay, I don't care if he was standing next to a tree. He's bigger than a fucking tree. There's no reason you shouldn't have been able to see him. So Michael moves in on Annie to finally finish the job. Laurie and her friend find Annie breathing her last breaths and look to get help before Michael snatches forgettable friend number 2. So Laurie runs off and Sheriff Brackett finds his daughter lying dead on the bathroom floor. For Rob Zombie to try to evoke an emotional reaction from the audience, he strangely shows real home video footage of Danielle Harris as a little girl. I guess this also represents the only memories Sheriff Brackett had of his daughter. Remember the way she used to hold the dog? I'll always remember the way she held the dog. So Laurie runs off into the woods until the Good Samaritan comes by to give her a helping hand and drive her to safety. That is until... Oh, come on! Jesus, how does this movie continue to get dumber and dumber? So Michael drags Laurie into a shack to, I guess, satisfy his smashing pumpkins fetish, as Laurie can strangely see the same hallucination as Michael, because this movie never made sense anyway. So Loomis, desperate for redemption, goes into the police perimeter to try to draw out Myers and fulfill this film's forced redemption plot. So Loomis enters this mess of a scene and tries to make his appeal to Michael, to which this happens.
Michael, for God in heaven,
But oh look, he gets shot 1,000,000 times and finally falls to his presumable death. I've got to say it was a tough journey to find Michael Myers' weakness, but thankfully we have some real sleuths out there that were able to dig up Michael Myers' one weakness.
Guns! Why did we never think of that?
But then Laurie comes out, apparently consumed by the same pretentious music video that Michael was in, and she's mistakenly shot down by the police. I'll give them a mulligan on this example of police brutality. So we go to a horribly designed psychiatric room, which we don't know whether or not it's real, but it probably is, but I don't give a shit. Laurie sees some stupid horse and the movie is finally fucking over, effectively ending Rob Zombie's theatrical release streak.
And that was Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. As if you think there could be nothing worse than Rob Zombie's original Halloween, he ups the ante, and it's profoundly even worse than the first film.
The writing is piss poor, the characters are even worse, and there's this stupid symbol thrown into the movie that has no articulation or actual purpose to serve the story. The subplot about Loomis having to redeem himself is so ludicrous because it has to overcompensate Loomis as a complete dick for it to be even remotely possible, which it isn't. This film single-handedly brought the Halloween brand to a new low and to a halt, with several Halloween movies failing in development in the years after this film. There's no way around it, this movie blows.
I'm diagnosing this film with constipation because it's full of shit with terrible pretentious symbols that mean nothing to the story whatsoever. I'm also diagnosing it with an overdose on psychedelics because they try to appeal with a hallucinogenic style that really just turns off the viewer instead of attracting the viewer. So, the real question is, what did you think of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2? And what did you think of this video? If you liked this video, please subscribe and like the video so you can be updated on ones like this on a weekly basis. With one more video to go in Oktoberfest, what do we have in store? I promise you, we'll end on a better note. Until next time, I'm the Cinematologist, diagnosing cinema one movie at a time. Thank you for watching.